Hello, welcome to the screencast today. Today's focus is going to be on training sessions to improve or develop strength. Now, when we're looking at strength training, I have to make this really, really clear. This screencast is focusing on how you produce, or how in the exam you would describe an individual weight training plyometrics or circuit session, or a weight training plyometrics or circuit training program. What it's not doing, that'll come in the next screencast, is looking at the concept of evaluating them. So you could get two types of questions. Describe a training session, for example, one of these three: weight training, plyometrics, or circuit interval training, or it could ask you to evaluate them. Now, if it's asking you to evaluate or discuss the use of, you're looking at advantages and disadvantages. This particular screencast is looking at actual discrete training sessions or programs. So when we're looking at weight training, we'll start off with weight training here then. Basically what it's saying, you have to be able to split weight training into two: multi-gym and free weights. Okay, so we'll have a look at the difference between those in a second. However, the similarity between these two is that in order to work out which strength type you are focusing on, you do judge the intensity by something called a 1 repetition maximum, which you'll be aware of when you look at ways of measuring or evaluating maximal strength. So once you work out the percentage of your kind of 1 rep max that you're training at, that will dictate the type of strength you're trying to focus on. And the real focus here is that the type of exam questions you're going to get are going to ask you, linked to one of these types of training, how you are, or which type of strength you're working on. So for example, weight training then can basically be used for all three of these types of strength. Okay, so depending upon the intensity slash the kind of percentage of the 1 rep max, will dictate which type of strength you're working on. For example, an exam question that came up in the 2018 AS exam was this. Okay, so various types of training used to develop strength, and it says here, describe one weight training session to improve strength endurance for a rugby player. Okay, so we've gone into the weight training section here. So what you have to do then is know how strength endurance would be different to explosive strength and maximum strength when using weights. Okay, so we'll have a look at that again in a minute. Hopefully you feel like you can answer that after we look at the weight training part of the screencast. So going on to that then, you could also get a question on plyometrics. And when talking about plyometrics, that has a specific type of strength it focuses on, and it is explosive strength. Okay, so that is looking at explosive strength. I mean, you'd also could, I suppose, put dynamic strength under there, but more often than not, explosive strength is the thing that they will be looking for this. Then finally, you've got circuit training. Now, circuit training can actually, when you look at your next screencast, look at advantages and disadvantages, can be used to improve a variety. You could do circuit training for maximal strength, but on the whole, the exam question is most likely to link it to strength endurance. Okay, you remember it at school. We'll have a look at it again in a minute. That you've got your 10 stations, sit-ups, press-ups, squats, and you go around body weight type exercises. So they are the kind of things we're looking at. If you get a question, you are looking in the exam really carefully at what training type it is asking for. And secondly, within that question, usually it will tell you the type of strength that it is looking for you to answer. I think they've got to tell you that, otherwise you could go off the wrong way. So that is something that you're looking for in an exam. What's the type of training and what type of strength are they asking us to manipulate the training session with? So that's the first part of the screencast. So now let's go and build it in. Let's have a look at weight training then. So as I said, you've got two types of weight training. Multi-gym then, okay, so specialised exercise machines, okay, so specialist machines with adjustable weight stacks, okay, so you can see the stack down there, and basically, for example, you've got a chest press here, very fixed, the fixed weights, and you can see how that would work. On the flip side to that, you've got free weights, okay, so free weights are freestanding weights, okay, that require a spotter, for example, a bench press. So these two things do the same muscle group. Okay, but in slightly different ways. This one's supported because it's a specialised exercise with adjustable weight stacks, whereas this one is completely freestanding. When you lift it off there, you show balance and coordination that allows you to produce the movement. So how do we work out them? Now, that's the difference between them: machine, freestanding. The similarity between these two types is that in order to train a certain type of strength, we have to have certain parameters. So what we've got then, I'll put it up to here. So we start off with maximum strength, and if you're trying to work maximum strength, if you make sure you get these parameters across here: frequency, it refers to the sets and reps. The intensity across here is the percentage of the 1 rep max. The time, with regard to weight training, actually talks about the work-rest ratio. Okay, so the work relief ratio, and finally we've got this time, the second time, which talks about the recovery between sets. Now I will ask you to start to talk about the type of activities you could use for this in a second. We've kind of given some examples up here. So if we start off there, maximum strength. So when you're trying to work your absolute maximum strength, you 3 to 6 sets, which is a constant throughout, then you go down for 1 to 5 reps, because it is the maximum force that your muscular system can exert in a single contraction or towards that area. If you're trying to improve that type of strength, you have to work at 1 to 5 reps. Okay, and when you're working at 1 to 5 reps, you have to be working at the highest intensity you can really get to. So 85 to 95% of your 1 rep max. Now, when you have finished your kind of set, that gives you kind of 1 to 3 / or up to 1 to 7 work rest ratio. So if you're looking at 45 seconds, then you times that by 3 up to 7 to give you the time period in between. So that's the ratio they want you to have. The period of work is the 1. And then the recovery is 3 times up to 7 times longer for rest. And the reason why you do that is because it allows you to recover or synthesize those PC stores. You will know from other areas of physiology, or you will know by the time you finish the course, that full PC recovery takes 3 minutes. So you're getting it even longer than that. So you've got 5 minutes in this case. Okay, so 5 minutes between each set, and the ratio numbers are looking like this. So that's that one, and that's your first one done. Now, if you're kind of talking about a weight training activity, so an exam question, and you have to then give a type, you would obviously then look to link your information to, if the question asked about free weights, or you were going to give a free weight example, you'd be looking at things such as bench press. You'd also be looking at things such as squat, for example. But if it was a multi-gym session, it might be looking at chest press or shoulder press with that on a weights machine. So if we go down to our next one then, if we go down to explosive strength, then explosive strength works, it's on the next level down. Okay, so you've got it into here. So you're looking at 3 to 6 sets, always a constant, and then this time the rep range goes up from 5 reps, so 1 to 5, from 5 to 10. So 5 to 10 reps is the amount of repetitions you're kind of lifting, and then on top of that, you're looking at kind of 75 to 85% of your 1 repetition maximum. As you can see, once you know maximum strength, it works off there. And then the kind of work rest ratio in this case is 1 to 3, and the time between sets is looking at somewhere between 4 to 5 minutes. So that's your explosive strength. And then if you go down from there, again, it works off, they work down in order. So then we're looking at strength endurance. So if you're doing a weight training session to improve strength endurance, same sets, but this time it goes from the 10 reps there up now, because we can do more weights, more reps, 10 to 20, because our percentage of the 1 rep max we are working at to improve strength endurance goes from 25% to 75%. And this time we're looking at a work rest ratio of 1 to 2. Okay, so for every period of work you get double the rest, and it's in the time period they ask for this would be 60 seconds. Okay, so that is your kind of focus, and you can kind of see as you go down to here, you should be able to start to see the kind of focus is down here. You can see how this one looks across here, so you've got 85 to 95%. That's the maximum strength. That's the highest kind of percentage you can work out of your 1 rep max. Then from there it goes down. Okay, and I think that works quite well. So now it goes from 75% up to 85%, which is where it finished there. And then finally you've got your 25% here to 75% there, which is where it kind of started at that one. So basically you can see how that works along. Same with the rep range, so you've got the kind of 1 to 5 reps here. Okay, then it goes down to 5 to 10 reps there, and then it goes from 10 to 20 reps there. So I think that works quite nicely, okay, and it's a nice easy one to get through. Work rest ratios as well, so you can kind of see how that works to give a training session. So you've got to learn those. What are the constants? 3 to 6 sets. Okay, the rep range for maximum strength is less low reps because you've got a high weight, 85 to 95%, and it works around from there. So hopefully you see that bit there. Let's have a look on our exam question then. So if you saw that now, and you maybe paused it, could you have a go at answering it? Okay, so I'll let you have a look, pause it now, and then I'll let you have a look at this next bit. So that's the answer there, you can see there. So you could use the use of free weight, multi-gym, from there, they're the things that I focused on, and then from then you've got your kind of key areas here. I'll let you have a quick look through there, and you can have a look at that at your own time. So let's have a look then. Next one, let's have a look at plyometrics. So plyometrics then, is not based around weight, okay? It's usually body weight, and if you're going to describe it, it basically involves a series of explosive actions which improve explosive strength, okay? Now, the physiological principles that underpin plyometrics basically refer to you producing an eccentric muscle contraction followed by a concentric muscle contraction to initiate something called a stretch reflex. You see here as you go down, okay, there'll be an eccentric lengthening of the rectus femoris, and then when you jump up, okay, this will then give a more explosive concentric contraction, and in that process of kind of the eccentric going into concentric is called a stretch reflex, and if you can initiate that, it allows you to have real powerful contractions. So if we go on from here, plyometrics training session, okay, what would it incorporate? And I've tried to keep this as similar as I could to the weight training parameters, but with some key differences. So if you have a look first up there, if you were doing a training session or training program, the pre-test you would do prior to a plyometrics training session would be a vertical jump, okay? And it's really important if you're doing a training session on plyometrics, you have a warm-up with dynamic stretches because you are going to be doing lots of explosive work. Now, if you look at the frequency here, it's quite important. When you're doing it, the first thing is this generic frequency. 2 sessions a week, 3 sessions max, and you must have 48 hours between sessions due to the kind of explosive nature of the activity. Okay, now what we have to do now is once you've got this bit, now we start to get to our kind of figures. And the first thing to say is a good thing is that, you know, the sets are the same. So you get 3 to 6 sets, and the rep range, because we're trying to improve explosive strength, okay, that's the focus of this training session, that we're looking here then to say 3 to 6 sets, 1 to 10 reps, and we're looking at about 10 exercises. So remember that 5 to 10 reps for explosive strength and weight training? Well, actually, it's very similar for plyometrics, but of course the difference, because we're looking at jumps and things like that, is that the intensity. Now, we do not talk about a percentage of a 1 rep match when you look at the intensity of a plyometrics training session, because what we look at here is we look at the following intensity things. So the intensity has to be extremely high and explosive, and these are the key differences to me. If you get this right, you are really on the right line to plyometrics. Minimal time on the floor and 50 to 200 contacts. That is what makes your answer and makes the examiner realise that when you're talking about plyometrics, they know that you're not talking about kind of weight training. You are talking about jumps. You're talking about, so in this case, high intensity, minimal time on the floor. So when you get down to there, you explode back up onto the box, okay? And then if to make a plyometric session within the right range, we look at up to 50 to 200 contacts on the floor. So contact points on the floor, down, up, down, up, down, minimal time there and exploding up. Okay, the time then, what we look at here, and this is another good thing, the work relief ratio, remember when we're talking about time and strength training, actually is the same for explosive strength than it was for kind of weights. So it's 1 to 3 up to 1 to 7, and in terms of the time between sets, again, we need a big rest period. At the very least, we're looking for a full recovery of 3 minutes. So that's really important because that allows us to get our PC stores, which are absolutely obliterated when you're doing explosive jumping activities. Okay, so going on from there then, the type of activities or type of exercises you could do, things such as box jumps, hurdles, hops, you could do clap press ups if you want to add that to it, and then on top of that, what type of athletes would use it? Well, you've got athletes such as sprinters, high jumpers, long jumpers and basketball players. Okay, so that's your plyometric session then. That's how you design one. You know, we'll have a look at the evaluation of it on the next screencast. So if we go on from there then, circuit training is our last training type. So circuit training then involves a series of exercise stations expressed as work relief ratios. We all remember this at school. Okay, I'll put a picture onto here so you can see it. You'd have different stations that you'd work around with those different examples there. So let's have a look then. I'm going to make this, use the same parameters, our fit principle to make sure we're trying to improve it. So a circuit training session then, you could do a pre-test of something like a sit-up test and then a warm-up with dynamic stretches. Now, from there, the frequency. Okay, so 3 to 6 circuits. Okay, so that's a good one to keep in your head. Instead of sets, it's circuits. 10 to 20 reps. That's good because it keeps the same range as weight training. And 10 exercises. The intensity, in this case, you do not need one. okay, because it uses those bits up here. That counts for both. Now, the time at the station and the work relief ratio works like this. Now, you'll remember at school, I still remember it now, believe it or not. I look at it and think it was 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. So you just have to say 30 seconds is the time at the station, and the work-rest ratio is kind of explained as a 1-to-1 work-rest ratio. On top of that, you've got the type of things that you might do, which are all the things here. So you've got these key sessions there, so press-ups, sit-ups, burpees, squats, and I'll just put these down to there.